Hey, this is Michael Levitt with the Breakfast Leadership Network. And if you really want to learn how to level up your life, you should be listening to the Time to Shine Today podcast with my great friend, Scott Ferguson.
Time to Shine Today podcast squad. It is Scott Ferguson, and we are at episode 137 with my homeboy that we kind of grew up next to each other in Michigan, didn't know each other, but now he has the Breakfast Leadership Group that he runs out of San Diego, California, and also up in Canada. He is a man that has faced adversity, leveled up through it, came out better on the other side, and now his mission is to help you avoid burnout and continue to level up. So without further ado, sit back, relax, break out your notebook, because here comes my good friend Michael Levitt from the Breakfast Leadership Network. Level up. Time to Shine Today, Varsity Squad. It is Scott Ferguson, and I've got myself a homeboy. From the people that know me and my subscribers and my listeners know that I am from, the suburbs of Detroit, Michigan, and me and Michael literally lived in the same city at the same time. He's a couple moons older than me, but not that much. So we still would have been in school together. But it's funny how we just kind of round about and reconnect. And, him and I have the same kind of thoughts about Detroit. A lot of people have maybe a little downtrodden thoughts and whatnot. But Michael and I kind of treat Detroit like a little brother, where we can talk smack about them, but nobody else can. We're very, very, very protective of our hometown. But Michael is the founder and chief burnout officer of the Breakfast Leadership Network, a San Diego, California, and Toronto, Ontario, Canada-based burnout media firm. He's certified in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and CBT therapist, a Fortune 500 consultant, #1 best-selling author, which make sure you listen to the end because I'm going to be doing a book giveaway. And he's the host of the Breakfast Leadership Show, which is bomb.com. It's a top 200 podcast on iTunes, and he has a real life in the flesh kind of story. I can't wait to dig in with him right now. So Michael, welcome to Time to Shine Today squad. Please introduce yourself. But first, what is your favorite color and why?
Favorite color is blue because in the comics, that's the color the Batman wore.
My last interview today, all he talked about was turn on his bat signal and looking for help. It was awesome. It was Ben Cloy from Military Veteran Dad. Great guy.
There you go.
I love it. So let's get to the origins, man. Where you kind of started and how you probably had went through a burnout and got through it, and now you're helping other people's level up. So tell us a little bit about that story, please, Ben. Or I'm sorry, sure. Michael. Sorry about that.
Yep, no worries. So Breakfast Leadership launched the organization a little over 4 years ago because I recognized that burnout was becoming a huge issue for society. And of course, this is before the pandemic and working from home burnout, which is a huge problem that we're facing across the globe and especially in the United States. But I launched the organization because I knew that I needed to address burnout and bring it to the forefront as far as people's attention, because I was seeing it in every sector, every leader, every level. And the big reason why is because I had my own burnout journey from 2009 and 2010, where, excuse me, it nearly cost me everything, including my life. And after recovering from what I refer to as a year of worst case scenarios, I realized life doesn't have to be that way. And I created a better life for myself. And after doing that, I started being aware of what was going on around me. And I thought, I can do a couple things. I can ignore it and just let them fall on their face and do whatever they need to do. Or I can bring awareness to this and give people the insight and the information that they need to be able to address their own personal burnout situation. And most importantly, prevent it from happening again. So that's a little bit about me.
Can we dig into that burnout story if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, of course.
Like what happened 08, 09? I mean, I know I lost everything. I'm a real estate agent by trade, and I didn't listen to my mentors. I printed money from 2003, 4, 5, and 6, and then didn't save it, didn't monetize it, didn't work it. Like, can you share a little bit about your burnout story?
Yeah, the kickstart was in 2007. I just started working as a healthcare executive for a startup healthcare organization in just outside of Windsor, Ontario. I'm a dual citizen. I immigrated to Canada in 2004, became a citizen in 2011. But back in 2007, I started up in this healthcare organization, and I was employee number one. So I was responsible for recruiting physicians, hiring staff, negotiating a site relocation for our clinic, entertaining and educating the community as to why our medical clinic was better than some longstanding clinics that were in the community. So this was quite a grind, and it was a startup. And for anybody that's ever been in a startup situation, you know there's a lot of hours involved. Unfortunately for me, I didn't establish boundaries around when I would work and when I wouldn't. And basically, that boundary was I just worked. And from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., 7 days a week, email, because I was getting email at all those hours and sending them at all those hours. So just grinding and not taking care of myself, stressing out over the pressure of a job, and not taking care of myself from a nutrition standpoint or rest or family, friends, and things like that. And it all came to a crashing halt in May of 2009, where I, at age 40, had a heart attack. And I had two blockages in my left anterior descending artery, which in cardiology world, that's referred to as the widowmaker, because
right. Yes, sir.
people don't typically survive with
Right.
those. I mean, some do, and thankfully I did, but many don't. So that kicked off what I refer to as my year of worst case scenarios. And
Sure.
what happened in that year's time from May 2009 to May 2010 is I had a heart attack that should have killed me. 17 weeks later, I lost my job during the economic recession, and I was in Windsor, across from Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
We all know what happened with the auto sector.
Yes,
that
sir.
was not there was no jobs to be found. It took several months to find a new job. Got up to Toronto, so left a community of roughly 25,000 to a community of about 7 million. Slight adjustment. Now, thankfully, I worked and lived in Chicago before, so I was used to big crowds, but I didn't think I was going to be back into it. And Toronto traffic is a whole lot worse than Chicago, other than the Eisenhower. But anyway, so moved up to Toronto, started working, and then got a phone call from my oldest daughter at the time, and she's still my oldest daughter, but she was at that point, right. That I know of anyway.
I love it.
Yeah, there's always those surprises. Oh, wow, you kind of look like me, huh? Oh well. Anyway, so I got a call from her, and I could barely understand because she was crying so hard, and finally got the gist of it, that the bank had come by and repossessed our family vehicle. And then a few weeks later, after we had moved up to Toronto from our place, and had movers and unpacked everything, we realized that we forgot the bunk bed ladder back at the old house, and we were getting ready to list the house. So I went back down because I was visiting my brother in Detroit. So I said, well, I'll go visit him, and then I'll swing by the house and grab the ladder and just kind of do a walkthrough again and see if there's anything else that we forgot. When I get to the house, I open up the screen door, and I see the biggest padlock I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen a padlock like this at Home Depot or anyplace else. I don't know. They're special for the banks.
Them, right.
Yeah, they're big ones. So, you work in real estate, so you know what they look like. Mm-hmm. And a foreclosure sign on the door. So in a period of 369 days, I had a heart attack that should have killed me, lost my job during the economic recession, had my family car repossessed, and my home foreclosed. All in a year. And every one of those things were caused because I was burned out. And that's why I do what I do, because I know what burnout can do. It can wreak havoc on your life, your finances, your family, relationships, work, everything. And it doesn't have to be that way. I could have chose a different path. I could have not worked all those hours. I could have avoided using the talk into a speaker and drive around the corner and get a brown bag as my breakfast, lunch, and dinner meal plan. I could have not stressed out about things, and I could have done things in my life that I enjoyed to do. I was a mini season ticket holder for the Tigers. I quit going because it wasn't fun. I've loved baseball since the 70s.
Right.
I'm thrilled that it's back now. Fingers crossed it'll stick around.
Sure.
Because Miami Marlins ran into a little issue, and I'm guessing they won't be the only one. So, long story short, I stopped doing things that I enjoy. So when you add all those ingredients together and you get into a burnout situation, it can really make your life absolutely miserable, and it did. But thankfully, I reinvented myself, which is not an easy thing to do, but it is possible.
Did you seek help for that?
I did a bit, not as much as I probably should have.
Okay.
A lot of it was self-work. I have, I've done a lot of work and worked with therapists since on a couple matters. So I'm definitely I'm not allergic to those people. I encourage people to do them, and I have people in my network that I refer to all the time. Because if there's somebody that comes to me with a burnout situation, and after talking with them, I know, okay, you know what, there's a better counselor than me that can work with you on this specific issue. So that's where I direct them. And
that's awesome.
It's for me, as I look at it, it's not, yes, it's business. Okay. We'll call it what it is, but ultimately it's like, if I know there's somebody that better than me that can help this person get them to where they want to be and deserve to be, then I'm going to refer them to that person 10 times out of 10. So
right. Yeah.
It makes it easier.
It's kind of like the right horse for the course kind of, analogy. And that's what we do here at, Time to Shine today. And that's why we're happy to bring you on. So when people are going through that burnout, whatnot, we have a great source to refer them to. So if I'm out at a networking event, which we do have those around here in South Florida, and we're press and flush and I'm meeting people, what kind of things is somebody going to say to me that would make them a good prospect, connection, or referral for Breakfast Leadership Club?
I think the key thing is if you, especially if you know them or if you are getting to know them, if they're talking about things about, their fatigue all the time, the things that they enjoy doing anymore, they stop going out and meeting up. This a lot of times you see it with friends where they always go out and then they stop going out and they say, well, work's busy, but work isn't any busier than it normally is.
Right.
Just they're definitely struggling with that. Significant, weight fluctuations is always a good indicator as well, but not typically. Sometimes, the metabolism is a funny thing as we get older. It's a comedian. I don't find it funny, but certainly my metabolism seems to. But but those are some things to look for. And one thing too, especially if it's a coworker or somebody, if you notice they're more irritable than they usually are, or they're making more mistakes than they used to, there's definitely some red flags there to look at. And it's difficult because even with more and more talk about mental health, and thankfully it's happening, there's still an embarrassment component to it where people will look at their burnout as a self-failure, which it's not. It's right. You haven't failed. You made some choices. You have some behaviors, some thoughts, and this is where the CBT and the NLP comes in. There's behaviors and thoughts and self-talk that we give to ourselves that will create these scenarios where we can be stressed over a long period of time, and eventually that does lead to burnout.
Absolutely. So it's kind of like it's a culmination of a lot of different things from what I've heard with you, that it wasn't just one thing. It was many trips through that speaker at the drive-through, as many, decisions that you made. So just like as you're working our way out of it, what we talk about a lot here at Time to Shine today is, inch by inch, it's a cinch. By the yard, it's hard. So eventually you can dig out that hole, and it'd be great to be able to introduce you to Michael, to be able to help with the process of being able to dig out. So Michael, when you're taking on a new client, might be in the discovery process, or maybe they've hired you, what is kind of a secret sauce, if you don't mind sharing, of like maybe helping them find their blind spot?
For me, it's asking them the deep questions, because, and this is sometimes I get, people raising their eyebrows on this. I say burnout is a choice, and they go, why would I choose burnout? It's, well, you didn't choose to be burned out. You made choices and decisions that led to your burnout. So the secret sauce for me is to figure out, okay, what makes you think that you're burned out, or why do you feel that you're burned out? What are some things that have been going on in your life, choices, decisions, patterns.
A culmination of choices, right? That led to it.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's a situation where it's not an overnight thing where you wake up tomorrow morning and go, oh, I caught burnout. No, that's
right.
No, that's called a hangover. It's different. It's so but at the end of the day, you run into these situations where it's over a period of time, and sometimes it's past traumas. I worked with somebody a while ago that was a type A personality, very driven, very successful, very hard on themselves, a lot of negative self-talk, and a lot of it was driven from their childhood, where their parent was pushing them to be, from their perspective, because I didn't talk to the parent, but from their perspective, driven to be successful. They could not accept anything but being number one best, period, end of story. And they didn't allow them, from their perspective, to do the things that they really wanted to do. So there's some resentment about their childhood because they didn't get to do the things that they wanted to do because they were forced to be doing this, which is something that, while yes, they were good at, they didn't want to do.
True.
And
you're forced in a direction.
Yeah, and that's stuff, that person carried from, and they're in their 30s now. That was when they were 10 or 11 years old. So we got a couple decades of carrying this luggage around.
That process that's causing the burnout, right?
Yep.
Wow. So, Michael, what do you do to, you mentioned this earlier about establishing boundaries. What is one of the first steps, and just the first step, if you could, that you really work through with your clients to establish boundaries to kind of work out of the burnout and not go back to burnout?
Yeah, one of the exercises we do is we have them go through some scenarios that from their perspective, is causing them stress, and asking them, okay, when someone, let's say it's stress with a loved one, for example, and there's pressure from a parent or a spouse or something like that. It's like, okay, when this person asks you to do this, how does it make you feel when they ask you? Do you feel resentment? Do you feel happy? Do you feel neutral? Do you feel angry? What get into the feelings of that and figure out, okay, why is it making you angry? Because, well, they never do this or they never do that. It's like, well, no is a complete sentence. And the challenge that a lot of people face when establishing boundaries is they figure, okay, well, I've been behaving this way towards this person or towards this boss or this employer all this time. Now I'm going to completely change, do a 180 and not do it. It's like, that's dangerous to approach it that way. Ideally, you want to have communications with those parties and say, look, in order for me to be the best version of me to help you, whether it's an employee or a spouse or a friend or whatever, I need to start doing these things differently in order for me to be the best version of me so I can help you out better.
That's the boundary setting,
yeah. So it's boundary setting. The other party may be okay with it. The other party may be dead set against it. And that's on them. That's not on you. You have boundaries is self-care. Boundaries is preserving yourself and making sure that you are taking care of you first, because even though we've been around people for a long time, we may have friends, family that we've known most of our life. We've only been around ourselves 100% of the time. It's us. We have to take care of ourselves. Yeah. I don't have any tag-alongs as far as I know. So,
right. How important is sleep?
Sleep is critical because we do damage to our bodies on a daily basis. Even if we live the most healthy of his lives, we kale everything. Being sarcastic there.
No, I feel you.
But we can be all the best. We still do damage to our bodies just because of environment, wear and tear, just natural things. When we get deep, restful sleep, that's when your body is repairing itself. And if you don't get deep, restful sleep, then the damage of today doesn't get repaired tonight. So the damage of tomorrow meets up with the damage today, and it starts piling up. And that's when you start having mental ailments and physical ailments, and then ultimately clogged arteries, and you get to meet the cardiology team, and it's not a lot of fun. Plus, especially if you don't have good drug coverage.
Right.
My drugs were $1,000 a month. And
Wow.
reminder, I was unemployed.
Okay.
So
that's what I
so I
tell
had
people is sleep is paramount. I mean, I'm not doing a plug from, but I have this Aura ring now that like measures everything for me. And it's really kind of, I'm treating my sleep now like one of my workout sessions, meaning like I'm preparing for my sleep, making sure the right essentials are in my body. I cool the room down, I black it out, turn off the noise and stuff. So I'm happy that you did concur with the sleep. So Michael, let's get in our DeLorean with Marty McFly. Let's go back to the 22-year-old Michael Levitt. What kind of knowledge nuggets are you dropping on him to help him maybe shorten the learning curve and level up? Maybe a little quicker.
Two things. One, be better with your finances. Number two, don't be a perfectionist. Don't stress about it. Who cares? It's good enough. And seek to understand other people's point of view. And I was uptight as they could get back then. So I say that 2007 was the things, but quite frankly, I think 1991 to that point where I had the cardiac event, I think the stones were being laid for it, because I'm a completely different person than I was back then. And even in Facebook, love it or hate it, the memories section is quite cute, because I'll see some posts, because I signed on to Facebook in 2008, so it was about a year before the heart attack. So I look at some of the posts that I did that it brought back, and I look and I go, I know that person, but I don't recognize them.
Got it. Yeah.
And when it's yourself, it's a little like, ooh, okay.
Unnerving,
and that's when
sense, right?
It is, but it's also okay. I've done some great work.
I made it through that, and look at where I leveled up to. That's awesome.
Exactly.
So when you're taking a new client, is there any good question that you wish they would ask you but never do?
They don't ask why I do the work, but I tend to be pretty public about that. So I guess that wouldn't be it. But they could ask another thing. It's like, you left a healthcare executive career. You were successful in that role, and you did great things and got certifications and all of that good stuff.
Right.
Why do you care?
There you go. I love that. That's what I was searching for. Why do you give a shit?
Do you care? Well, because if you help one person defeat their personal burnout, it has a ripple effect, just like throwing a pebble across the river. It impacts all their loved ones, the people they work with, the people that they spend time with. And it just makes it so much easier for them to live their life. And they get to experience life and taste things, even during a pandemic. And I know a lot of people are burning out right now because of the work and being full-time school teachers again, and 8 billion Zoom calls and all of these things. I get it. I know what it feels like. But having those time boundaries around things, and there's still things to enjoy.
Love it. So
you can still go outside. You can still do things. You can still order your favorite food. You can still read a book.
Can.
Yeah.
You can.
So those weren't taken away from us. So
truth right there. So we talk a lot about the dash here at Time to Shine today. Michael, how do you want your dash remembered? That little mark in between your life date and your expiration date. How do you want Michael's dash to be remembered? Maybe your epitaph or legacy statement. How do you want it?
I want my life to be viewed as somebody that, quoting you just a few seconds ago, gave a shit about people living their best life. Because if people live their best life, then they are giving more and better than they would be able to otherwise. And that's when creativity comes in. That's when inventions of great things come into play. All the things that we take for granted that we have access to. You and I are having a conversation right now over somebody's invention.
Right.
and it's a great opportunity to be able to do that. And for many people, especially right now with physical distancing and borders closed and all that good stuff, this is how we communicate with a lot of loved ones if they're not in the same country as we are. So give and live your best life that you want to live. And I know time flies, but tell me, when you're living your best life and you enjoy life, it really flies. But you know what? You want to enjoy it and enjoy the moment. Enjoy the moment. Embrace the moment.
I coach people, Michael, that are a little bit like older, like that, like our age, kind of not the young bucks and stuff like that. And they're almost, I've been told that like, I'm afraid to enjoy it so much because it flies so much that they almost sabotage themselves into staying there because they feel it slows time. But I'm like, man, you're going to have less time on earth because you'll be dead if you keep going in the way you're going. So you just nailed that. You nailed that. So what's 3 things Michael can't live without? And they could be people, places, or things.
3 things that I can't live without. I mean, I could be cheesy and say oxygen, food, and shelter. No, but I'm not going to say that.
Gravity.
Yeah, gravity. The ability to learn. Okay. That's one thing. I'm a lifelong learner. I've learned so much. I learned that I should have paid more attention in marketing classes when I went to Walsh College instead of just all accounting, especially when you launch a business. Fresh air, going outside. There's a nature trail that's not too far for me, and I kick myself for not enjoying it when I was younger, but I'm making up for it now.
Okay.
And just quiet moments to reflect and dream and get creative on things, building in those buffer times in your calendar to just do self-care. And that could be a variety of things. It could be exercise. It could be going for a walk. It could be sitting, on a patio, drinking a cup of coffee or tea or anything like that. Those are big things, family, friends, are all important and all of that. But, those are things that energize me on a daily basis. And I make sure that I do it on a daily basis.
Love that. I take my little mini sabbaticals on a daily. It's like, I don't have to force myself to anymore, but it was something that I had to treat like a workout to really force myself into that. So what is your definition of a life well lived?
Life well lived is living your life how you want it, where you want it, and when you want it.
I love it. Michael, as we wind things down a little bit, I have our leveling up lightning round. 5 or 6 questions. You and I could talk 15 to 20 minutes on each one. You got 5 seconds to answer. No explanations. You ready to rock?
Let's do it.
All right. What's the best leveling up advice you've ever received?
Quit thinking too damn much.
Share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success.
Reading.
Love it. Speaking of that, not what you're reading now, not the flavor of the month or anything like that. What is the one book? If I'm in the doldrums, man, I'm like, and outside of your own book also, if I'm in the doldrums and I'm like, hey, Michael, this is how I'm feeling, or you'd be like, hey, Fergie, here's the book. What would it be?
My favorite leadership books is The Tortoise and the Hare.
I love it. And it's funny you say that. Tortoise and Hare, and my favorite sales book is Green Eggs and Ham. It's true. It's funny what you can learn, man. Awesome. So what's your most commonly used emoji when you text?
Probably thumbs up.
Thumbs up, my man. Awesome. But you did give me a thumbs up on LinkedIn, so you're not lying there. Not what your age now, but if physically, what age would you want to be for the rest of your life?
33.
I know, man. Like 28 to 32 is my jam, dude. I was feeling good then. All right. So what's your favorite charity and organization that you like to support your time and or money to?
March of Dimes.
Really? Okay.
And yeah, I mean, there's Heart and Stroke Foundation, there's, heart things and all of that stuff, which, I support as well. But March of Dimes, and just because when I was born, I was born with a hernia. So, apparently I was doing some too heavy lifting in utero. I'm not really sure. I guess that was probably the last time that I lifted. But anyway, it's an organization that does some great work, and I've been supporting them for a long time.
Last question. It's kind of a little bit tougher, but what is the best decade of music? 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s?
Ooh, I'm gonna have to. I'm old. I'm gonna have to go 70s.
There you
You
go.
know,
You got
I mean,
such
come
a
on.
mix in there, man.
Well, you got to mix
Classic
the 80s.
rock,
Yeah, it's a
disco.
good mix. Yeah, and we spent more than a few days listening to WRIF, and of course,
Riff. Yeah.
yeah.
It's funny. Our generation, man, we had the 70s with the classic rock and disco, right? And
Mm-hmm,
then with the back end of the hippie stuff, which is good
mm-hmm,
music too. But then the 80s, you roll into rap, like,
mm-hmm,
Sugar Hill Gang and Run DMC. Then you got the
mm-hmm.
hair bands, you
Yeah.
got the English invasion, from a bigger standpoint than the Beatles, meaning like more bands came here. So
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting. Our childhood it's fantastic. So how can we find you, Michael?
Best way to find me, go to breakfastleadership.com. There you find all kinds of different things. On social media, just look under Be Fast Leadership. Don't put that on a license plate. Because then you'll get to meet. You'll
I get it now. Got it.
Yeah, don't do it. I don't have it on mine, and I won't. It's just as dangerous. But one thing we'd mentioned in the pre-show too is, and we alluded to it a little bit about this, but it's important for people to live their bucket list. And what I mean by bucket list, my version of it is the things that you do and you enjoy in life. You need to do those and schedule them as if they're the most important meeting you've ever had with the boss of your life, which the boss of your life is you. So there's a template. So you go to breakfastleadership.com/bucket. I'll get you a free template on that. I'll send you a video too, explaining deeper what to do with the exercise, because I find with people that are burning out, they stop doing things that they enjoy doing in life. And that is a huge problem. You need to make life enjoyable.
And also, folks, he's written a book, and he answered the question within our podcast here. I was like, why 369 days? But I understand now he lost his job. He had a heart attack, his car, and his house. So you just heard the story from Michael about that. So he wrote the book 369 Days to Survive. And I want to give you a free signed copy. So if you're listening to this, go over to the Facebook group and just leave a comment. The Facebook group is facebook.com/time to shine today. Leave a comment under his little audiogram that we're going to put there for him. And we'll make sure that you get a signed copy sent to you from Michael as well. I honestly haven't read it yet, but it's going to be on one next to my reading list, especially right now, because the book hits home with COVID, because people are going through, shifts and pivots, or whatever the new cool word is to say about that right now. And folks, you just really had a free masterclass dropped on you by my homeboy and good friend, Michael Levitt. He reminds us to be curious about our feelings, to establish boundaries. If you're fatigued or don't enjoy what you used to do and like to do, like he made an analogy of the Detroit Tiger tickets. I had my season tickets too. I never hit burnout like that to where I didn't want to go to the game. But if you're not feeling it, reach out to me and I'll be happy to make a personal introduction to Michael. Remember, you have not failed when you hit burnout. It's just another stepping stone. Remember, inch by inch, it's a cinch. Ask yourself the deep questions of how you got there. The choices that you're making right now is where you're going to be a month from now, or years from now. And Michael seems like the guy that is the friend that I wish I had 5 years ago. And I think that that's the kind of guy Michael is, because Michael's going to help you level up. He's going to help you establish the boundaries. Remind you to be better with your finances. Don't be a perfectionist. Seek to understand the points of other points of view. That means shut your mouth and listen, and really listen with your ears, eyes, and all your senses to really get to know people. Strive to live your life, your best life. Don't think too damn much. Get busy living. Now, don't get busy dying, and do the things you absolutely enjoy. And Michael does all of those. He's a coach, speaker, author. He's a total baller. He's humble yet hungry. He levels up his health. He levels up his wealth. Michael, you're part of our squad right now. Thank you so much for coming on. And we're going to do some collaborations here in the very near future, brother.
I'm thrilled to be here today, Scott. Thank you so much, man.
Awesome. Chat soon. Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Time to Shine Today podcast, proudly brought to you by Sutter & Nugent Real Estate Excellence, who can be reached at 561-249-7266 and online at www.sutterandnugent.com. If you are a business owner or professional who would like to be interviewed on Time to Shine Today, please visit timetoshinetoday.com/guest. If you like this episode, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. There's a link in the show notes to our website. Also there, you will see our recommended resources. We hope that you will support our show by supporting them. If you like what you've been listening to, it'd be great if you could just give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe while you're at it. I'm your host, Scott Ferguson, and until next time, let's level up. It's our time to shine.